It's Monday night, 9 p.m. Central Time. You're here. We're here. It's Locked On Sooners Live, and we get a commitment to talk about. We'll talk about Brennan Thompson. We'll also talk about Jaden Hardy because we hadn't got a chance to do that yet on today's episode of Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners Live. It's Monday night, 9 p.m. Central Time. My name is John Williams. You can follow me on Twitter at John9Williams. My buddy here is Josh Helmer. You can follow him on Twitter at JoshOnRef. You can also hear him Monday through Friday from 9 to noon on 94.7 The Ref in Norman. Thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. We're going to continue talking spring game throughout the week. We're going to talk recruiting, a big commitment potentially happening a little bit later this week that we'll break down as well. But Josh, we've got a commitment to talk about from Saturday, but also from Monday night. Let's start with the most recent one. Brennan Thompson, the Texas transfer wide receiver, a four-star wide receiver in the 2022 class, entered the transfer portal, committing to the Oklahoma Sooners. Huge news for the Sooners.
It is, and it's rare that you see somebody come from one way or the other across the Red River. Once you sign on that dotted line to either Oklahoma or Texas, man, I know we saw Trace Ford come from Oklahoma State to OU, so not that, and hold your comments on the Bedlams, not a rivalry. I got you. But generally speaking, we don't see a lot of shifting in between rivals. And certainly, even though you see, the one with Trace Ford, you don't see a lot of that from Texas to OU or OU to Texas, vice versa. You've got one here in Brenen Thompson, and a lot of the things that we've talked about, the Everyday Club, if you're a part of the show every single day, you've maybe heard some of this, but speed, that's what speed do, baby, what Mr. Brennan Thompson is going to bring to Norman.
And John Hoover from All Sooners SI, also from The Animal out of Tulsa, had a really great tweet just kind of breaking down the speed element, and I want to kind of share that with you guys real quick. Basically, he just compared him to Gavin Sawchuk, Jaquays Petaway, the two guys on the roster that we've been talking about having this elite track speed. Gavin Sawchuk, his high school 100 time, 10.62 seconds. Jaquays Petaway, who will be here in the summer, ran a 10.41 just recently. Brennan Thompson's personal record in the 100, 10.18. So a whole half second faster than Gavin Sawchuk and a quarter of a second faster than Jaquays Petaway, the two guys that we were like most excited about, or not the most excited about, but really, really excited about to add their speed. And you're getting a guy that's even faster, that already has a little bit of collegiate experience under his belt now. Not a lot, but a little bit. He's been in a college strength and conditioning program. He's been on a college roster, going through the in and out, the day-to-day grind of what it takes to be a collegiate student athlete. You get him on the roster, and Hank, right off the top brings up an excellent point. Texas fans are talking like, okay, if Xavier Worthy transfers, it's no big deal. We got Brennan Thompson. Now that Brennan Thompson's transferring, he wasn't very good. That's just fans coping. I totally get it. We've done the same thing over the last year and a half with some of the transfers that left Oklahoma after the Lincoln Riley era. But there's a reason this kid was a four-star player. We talked to John Garcia on the show last Friday. If you didn't get a chance to check that show out, we talked to him. He talked about the same thing, just elite speed. The dude's a playmaker. It's a fantastic addition for Jeff Lebby in the offense. And the Texas thing adds a whole nother element to it, but wherever this kid came from, it would have been a good addition. You don't get a chance to add that kind of speed to your roster every day. And you might not ever add that to your recruiting class or to a class, or you might go your whole career as an offensive coordinator and not have somebody that's fast. Like, that is like borderline Olympic fast in the 100 meters. So you get him in open field, get him in space, and it's going to be deadly. Like, speed kills, and you can never have enough of it. And I'm really excited about this addition. Yeah, he's raw. He's inexperienced from a production standpoint at the collegiate level, but I don't think it'll take very long before we start seeing that production start to mount for him, whether it's as a special teams player on punt and kickoff returns or as just a gadget option on jet sweeps. They'll get him on the field. They'll figure out a way to make him impactful, even without necessarily giving him the football. Because when that speed's out there, you got to account for it somehow, some way, because the time that you don't, he's gone for 80 yards and a touchdown. So he's going to be an impactful player, even if he only has maybe 20 or 30 touches on the season.
And Oklahoma's had great success. Not groundbreaking stuff here, John. Most every successful college football program has sort of that little scat back type wide receiver out there, slot type wide receiver that's, what Brennan Thompson is measured at. 5'10", $165. I'm sure he's added weight since he was a recruit, but not your 6'3", 195-pound receiver coming out of high school. 5'10", and he can fly. Guess what? One of the teams that handed Oklahoma a loss last season. Deuce Vaughn, I know that you're talking running back and not wide receiver, but has some of those out of the backfield skills, and it's easy to see where Brennan Thompson can have a little bit of that for Oklahoma's offense. And Jeff Lebby wants to do that, man. How many times last season did we see end around, jet sweep, just different ways to get skill guys the football in motion? And if you have that type of speed, which Thompson does, then just get him the football and let him go to work. And I think one of the things that we saw, John, from the spring game, we knew this thing going in, but we saw Oklahoma, could use some help at wide receiver right now. Jayden Gibson, I'm not going to, again, I think what I've said the last couple of shows here, I'm not going to live in the world of absolutes with a spring game, but it's, I think, fair to say you see Jayden Gibson, somebody we're counting on, go out there and have a couple of inopportune drops for Oklahoma. This is someone that you feel like maybe he's going to be one of your top wide receivers. So if that's the world we're living in right now, wide receiver for Oklahoma, then come on down, Mr. Brennan Thompson, because help is on the way and it's needed.
And I think specifically for wide receiver too, it's still pretty wide open. I mean, I think Angelo Anthony made a couple nice plays. LV Bunkley made a couple nice plays, but nobody really put themselves far and away ahead of the pack in that wide receiver 2 competition. DJ Graham had the best game of all the wide receivers from a production standpoint, maybe Gavin Freeman as well. But you're still don't really have a definitive answer at wide receiver 2. And maybe you never weren't going to have a definitive answer until fall camp. But now you throw another name into the mix, a guy that is going to factor in. He'll factor in at the slot as well, competing with Drake Stoops, Gavin Freeman for some snaps as well. But again, he adds a different element to the game than those two dudes. And so you're going to get him on the field in certain packages, and it's just going to be a little bit different offense. So it's going to be intriguing to see kind of where he stacks up initially, because we saw them bring in a couple transfer wide receivers after the spring game last year in LV Bunkley Shelton and JJ Hester, and they didn't really factor into the offense much in that 2022 season. So how much is he going to factor in 2023? I think it'll be similar to what we saw out of Gavin Freeman, a handful of snaps here and there. We'll send him downfield on a few go routes, see if we can catch a big play, catch him sleeping a little bit. We'll do a few end arounds, see if we can catch him sleeping, use that speed, get it out on the edge. But I don't know if we'll see a full complement of snaps for him just because he's coming into the thing a little bit late. But again, he could really surprise and earn a role faster than what we might think. Get him in now, and he's got time to acclimate himself to the playbook, spend time with Dylan Gabriel away from the team, and start generating some chemistry with him, with Jackson, all those guys, so that they can kind of get him up to speed and get him, like I said, fully acclimated to the offense.
Well, and here's somebody that I'm watching the huddle tape right now. Is this somebody that, even if it's not, hey, Brennan Thompson, you step right in and you're acclimated offensively for Oklahoma, is this somebody that all of a sudden can step back and return punts for you and be an electric factor there? That is, look, field the football and then see blocks and run away from blocks, right? And follow blocks. You got the ability to go make something after, reeling in the punt. then just go be a playmaker. So maybe that's something that Brennan Thompson immediately, even if it's not in the wide receiver core, how he can impact things for Oklahoma, man. But I just challenge you, John, to tell me who is the yards after catch guy right now with Oklahoma.
Am I going to be redundant when I continue to throw out Jalil Farouk's name for any wide receiver question that you ask me? That's the guy. Like, that's the guy that's going to make the most plays after the catch. He's going to get the most targets. He's going to have the most catches. And so I think he might not have the highest average yak because he's going to be catching balls all over the field at different spots. But I really do think that he is the top wide receiver option. He's going to be the top yak option because we've seen him do it. We've seen him, take handoffs and make plays, from behind the line of scrimmage. We've seen him take it on swing passes. We've seen him do it on wide receiver screens. In the bowl game, the Alamo Bowl game, he had a really strong, yard after the catch moment in that as well. So I think he's got, to me, he brings a little bit of the wiggle, a little bit of speed, a little bit of physicality where he can make guys miss, but he can also run you over and force you to miss because I'm just going to bowl you over. I think that's the guy that's going to be your yak guy. But again, Gavin Freeman, he's got some yak ability himself. They'll scheme some things to get Drake Stoops, on the perimeter, kind of like what we saw in the naked bootleg where he's running that kind of, it's not quite a drag route, just that, shallow out route. So I don't know. I think there's quite a few guys, just a matter of who's going to get the most touches for me. And I think that's going to be Jalil Farouk.
Well, and look, I'm just going to low-hanging fruit again here. Come on, man. Somebody coming from the University of Texas? Yes. Second Saturday in October. Let's go, baby. Get rid of that 49-0 thing real quick and go be a playmaker in that game, Mr. Brennan Thompson, and you will make one half of the Cotton Bowl very, very upset, and you will make the Crimson half of the Cotton Bowl a very, very happy set of campers. So it's an intriguing storyline, right? We like good stories. This is a good story, John.
It is a fantastic story, and if he does go out and ball out in the Cotton Bowl, that would be fantastic. I think we would all really love to be petty about that one, just because, what are rivalries if we can't be a little bit petty? But coming up next, we got to talk about another commitment the Oklahoma Sooners got over the weekend, happened on Saturday just before the spring game. So we'll talk about that after we talk to you all about our friends over at FanDuel.
Yeah, the Sooners heating up, ladies and gentlemen, on the recruiting trail. Speaking of heating up, it's time to heat up on the diamond. Grand slams, no-hitters, double plays. They're back, baby. Major League Baseball in full swing action over at FanDuel, where you can jump in. That's America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers, no sweat first bet when you step on up to the plate. That's up to $1,000 if your first bet does not win back in bonus bets. The no sweat first bet, FanDuel.com/locked on, where you can sign up for that. FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. Is it nice to just, or is it nice? Is it a good idea? Is it good practice for us to just kind of run down the timeline here of recruiting wins of late for Oklahoma? Obviously, Jaden Hardy, we need to talk about that, but just this little tear that Oklahoma has been on, John. And I will say, Locked On Sooners has told you, just be patient, everybody. Get through the spring game. This is just how last year played out on the recruiting trail for Oklahoma. Get to the spring game, and all of a sudden, 0 commits turns into 3, turns into 5 commits, and all of a sudden, it's an avalanche by the time we're done with the months of June and July. And it feels like we're on that same trajectory, John.
Yeah, we absolutely are. Sorry, I thought I might have been muted there for a second. Forced to have it. Since March 25th, that's less than 1 month ago, the Oklahoma Sooners have gotten 5 commitments to the 2024 recruiting class. And then, Brennan Thompson, you add him into the 2023 recruiting class. But since March 25th, you've gotten Jeremiah Newcomb, 4-star. You've added Michael Hawkins, 4-star on April 8th. You added KJ Daniels, a 3-star player on April 17th. You got an Isaiah Autry, a 3-star player with 247 Sports, but a 4-star player elsewhere on April 21st. And then on Saturday, April 22nd, you added 4-star Jaden Hardy, who happens to be the Oklahoma Sooners' most highest rated prospect that they've added to the recruiting class thus far. So it's a big commitment for them. And again, the ball is rolling. The dominoes are toppling over and over and over again. And yeah, man, things are looking up, and we're gonna get another one this week. It's just this is just kind of how it's going to be over the next few months. It's like every week or every 2 weeks, there's going to be a new member of the 2024 recruiting class making their pledge to the Sooners.
And again, Oklahoma locking down that Lone Star State into Louisville to pick up the commitment from one Jaden Hardy. If you're unfamiliar, I know a lot of our everyday club here on Locked On Sooners. I know many of you very much dialed into what's going on in the hashtag Cruton world. But for those of you that are not, and you're like, okay, wait a second, another commitment. Tell me more about Jaden Hardy. We got you covered. Top 150 guy per 24/7 Sports. That is the 24/7 Sports, just their ranking. In the composite ranking, just a little bit outside of that. He's number 162 nationally there, but regarded as a top 30 player in the state of Texas, John. Top 15 safety nationally. And, oh, by the way, he has, as you would expect from somebody committing to the University of Oklahoma under this regime here, he's got a nice little sheet of offers. Alabama's there. Arkansas, Baylor, LSU, Miami, Michigan State. Should I go on? Oregon, Penn State. It's the offer sheet. Texas is there. You want out over Texas and Texas A&M in this recruitment for Hardy. So it's a big-time recruiting win for Oklahoma, and it keeps that positive momentum defensively for the Sooners on the hashtag Cruton trail.
Yeah, it's another athletic player that they can add to their secondary. And again, over the last 3 years, the 2022, 2023, 2024 cycles, they've added a ton of blue chip prospects to the defensive backfield. Like we talked about it a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was just last week, where they only have 2 starters from either side of the football that were starters back in 2021, Woody Washington, Andrew Rain. But you think about the defensive backfield and the overhaul that has transpired for Oklahoma, for Brent Venables, for Jay Valai, for Brandon Hall. I mean, it was a little bit bleak there for a minute, but with Jaden Rowe, Robert Spears Jennings, Gentry Williams in the 2022 class, then you had Peyton Bowen and Day McCullough and Josiah Wagner and Makari Vickers, so other Kendall Dolby. Like I'm going to forget all these names because they added so many blue chip prospects in the 23 cycle. And then you come back in 2024 and you're getting you're keeping that momentum going in the cycle when you add a 4-star player in Jeremiah Newcomb and a 4-star player in Jaden Hardy. This group of coaches, Jay Valai, Brandon Hall, they've been incredible since showing up to Norman on the recruiting trail. And that's what kind of gives you a lot of optimism, not just those guys, but the whole staff in particular, is they're just stacking talent on talent on talent on talent. And yeah, you can send waves of defensive backs out there. You lose one, you're still going to feel really good about where you're at because of the guys that you're bringing in. And I mean, based on everything that we're hearing, they're bringing in dudes, like legit dogs to their secondary, like Josiah Wagner. Brent Venables and Ted Roof can't speak highly enough of Josiah Wagner, a true freshman who's been on campus 4 months, less than maybe, only spent the last month, doing spring football with Oklahoma. And they're like, this guy's ready. Like he's got the right attitude, the right mentality, but that's the type of defensive back that they're bringing in. Guys that are going to show up and they're going to be kind of ready to compete from day one. They're not going to be sitting back waiting their turn, because they want to play. They're grinding out there trying to play. So adding another one like Jaden Hardy, a guy who's very athletic, he's got good range, he's good at the point of attack, he's a physical tackler, he's going to come downhill, he plays with speed, he plays fast. Again, another real element of Oklahoma's defensive transition is they're looking for dudes that play fast, like guys that aren't going to be slow to the football. They're going to be getting after it. That's what they added in Jaden Hardy. And again, big time commit. I know there's a lot of kind of like consternation over what they lost in Aaron Flowers. Well, you added another really good safety prospect in Jaden Hardy. So like, okay, things didn't go that way for Aaron Flowers. You didn't end up getting him. He goes to USC. Well, he still added a really, really good player to the cycle in Jaden Hardy.
What do you think here? Jaden Hardy comparison? You like the DeLaren Turner-Yell comp? I don't know that the tape I'm watching right now, I don't know that I've seen that much DTY just yet. I'd love if he morphed into that. I think DTY was kind of an underrated guy at
He was a
the
good
University
player.
of
He just got
Oklahoma.
injured too much.
Yeah, injury concerns and, some of the whole parts probably just wasn't, great throughout that entire time with Oklahoma. But, one thing I kind of dig is his dad was a former linebacker for Tennessee. So to me, it's like, I like the fact that dad has, if you're playing safety, I like the fact that dad was playing linebacker, right? So if you're asking me, does he compare to DTY? Well, I maybe just don't know enough to say confidently, yes, that he does. But I can tell you that dad has instilled in Jayden, hey, fly downhill and pop somebody, which I like that part of it for a safety.
Well, it's kind of like the reverse of, was it Kevin Sperry, whose dad played linebacker, and Mike Hawkins, Michael's dad, who played cornerback. Like you got all this influencing the offensive side from former defensive players. Well, now you got a defensive player influencing a defensive player. So you know that he's going to come with physicality. Otherwise, he's going to have to hear it from his dad. That's just the way it's going to be. So yes, a 5'11" dude. He's got good size. He's going to have room to add, weight and functional strength to his frame. But a really good addition for the Sooners. And again, it just continues to snowball what they've done on the recruiting trail, especially at defensive back. I've just been so impressed with what they're doing there. And, we talk a lot about the blue chip prospects, but even the 3-star guys that they added in this last cycle, and Eric McCarty, that's going to be a really, really strong addition for them. I mean, as a safety prospect, just a really good football player, a good athlete. This is just really impressive. I really like the addition, and man, it's just getting started. They're going to have so many more, defensive backs that they add. It's going to get crowded at some point, but you don't worry about that. That's one of those good problems that the coaches have to figure out.
So I know we want to talk about Oklahoma continuing to trend for a couple of wide receivers, but as we shift our conversation back to some of your comments and the spring game itself, again, talking safeties here, I think one of the big takeaways is safety looks like it's in a good spot. And if I haven't butchered this, I believe this will be Brent Venables talking about Peyton Bowen's interception.
Yeah, excellent play. And can't wait to watch the film to see, how early he got the jump on the ball. But excellent football play. And, he's missed over half the spring because he had a little hammy. So we had to hold him out for several practices. But the best football for him is certainly in front of him. And really talented and instinctive, and really does a great job of anticipating. And if he just doesn't panic as a player. He's like that quarterback that'll, no matter what kind of kabuki you're throwing at him, he'll climb the pocket and be patient and keep his eyes down the field. That's how Peyton is as a safety, and can play multiple positions back there.
John, football is easy. 3 words that we like here, and I know we didn't hear those right there, but I just, from the first spring availability, Brent talking about Peyton Bowen. And you know what? I will say this, okay? The interception that he had of Dylan Gabriel, terrific play. Nice to see a defensive back come down with the football when given the opportunity to, come down with the football. That being said, it was into the wind. It wasn't really, I wouldn't describe as a great decision from one Dylan Gabriel. So all of which is saying, okay, was it the greatest defensive back play of all time? No, it wasn't from Peyton Bowen. But hey, wasn't it nice to see somebody in position to go make that play and then make the play when given said opportunity, John?
Even if he hadn't made the interception, the fact that he got into phase with the wide receiver, turned his back, or, he's basically playing box out, turned his head, and he's looking back for the ball. Like, what more could you ask for? And then he makes the play. He comes down as Andrell Anthony's really battling him to try and get back in position. Keith Jackson's talking about, I rewatched some of the game today, and Keith Jackson's talking about on the broadcast where Andrell Anthony just got to interfere with the dude and just not let him make that play. But Peyton Bowen, man, he's got him kind of draped on him, and he has the concentration and just the ability to come down with that and basket catch it like he did. Was an incredible play. I mean, the athleticism, the ball skills, the football IQ, just the doing the simple things really, really well. And I think that's what stands out so far. There's a comment in the comment section that he should be starting at safety by, the Red River Showdown. It maybe, but the safety position as a whole has just gotten better. From Billy Bowman to Key Lawrence, Reggie Pearson. There's people talking about Pearson. It's fine. Like, Pearson had a really, really good game. And I asked Ted Roof about that, but he was quick to also talk about Key Lawrence. And now he's done a really good job this spring, and how those two have really battled well in the safety competition as well. So, like, the safety position as a whole has just gotten better. So even if Peyton Bowen's not starting by the Red River Showdown, that's not a bad thing. That just means that everybody's gotten better, that Billy Bowman's gotten better, that Key Lawrence has gotten better, that Reggie Pearson has added the things that we thought he was going to add in physicality and toughness and an edge to the defensive backfield. And so if Peyton Bowen's not starting, that's no like slight to him at all. He's a true freshman player. He's going to get snaps. He's going to earn opportunities. But because the safety position is so much better, it's not a foregone conclusion that he's going to start at any point in time in his true freshman season, but he's going to see a significant amount of snaps, because you can't keep a guy that appears to be that good off the field all the time. And this is what you really want, right? You want to be able to go, too deep at every position and feel really good about, okay, Billy's got to step off the field for a minute because, he tweaked something, or he's just been out there so much. He just needs a breather. We roll Peyton out there. We feel 100% confident that we're not going to get burned like we did in the TCU game a year ago when we were down safeties and we had no other options. We're going to feel really confident that Peyton's going to know exactly what to do. He's going to be in control, in charge of the defensive secondary, and he's going to make a play if the ball comes his way. That's what you want. You want to be able to go too deep, because you can't have your defense playing 900, 1,000 snaps like they did with the linebacker crew a year ago. You just can't do it. But everywhere across the board on the defensive side of the ball has got depth now. And that is beautiful to see. And we saw a glimpse of it in the spring game. I know, like, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. We'll see it when they get into Big 12 play too. I think some of the things that we're seeing, they translate, whether it's, Peyton Bowen and just the skills that he used. We can talk to Deshaun McCullough too. Like, Deshaun McCullough and what he was doing, like flying around the football. Hank mentions it. He was everywhere, absolutely everywhere. He jumped off. Like, I had not sat down in my seat in the press box but a couple minutes, and I looked down and I'm like, oh, there's number one flying across the field. That's Deshaun McCullough making a play. Oh, there he goes again, making a play. Oh, here he is again, making a play. Just all over the place, making plays. That's fantastic. You add him to a Danny Stutzman. You add him to, what you had in some of your guys on the defensive line that are coming back. Like, you're adding talent to what you thought was some good players, just not a good collective.
Are we good with Indiana Assassin for McCullough as a nickname?
I mean, I came up with, I attributed Slim Charles to him. I don't know if you're a fan of The Wire. If we got anybody in the comment sections that's a fan of The Wire, Slim Charles, he was muscle for Avon Barksdale in season 3 of The Wire. And Stringer Bell's coming to him. And Stringer Bell is Avon Barksdale's, accomplice in crime. They're partners. He's wanting, he comes to Slim Charles, the muscle, and he's like, I need you to hit somebody. And there's just a GIF out there, and you can find it if you just type in Slim Charles, and it just says, who we hitting? And that's the picture I had in my mind of Deshaun McCullough. It's like Brent Venables was like, all right, there's the team. And Slim Charles like, or Deshaun's like, all right, who we hitting? That guy over there. Go get him.
So what do you think? Should we call Tom Allen or just send him a care package as a thank you? Because I agree with the commenters here. Sooner fan says Indiana developed Deshaun McCullough good. Eric says, hey, thanks, Indiana. Everybody's saying thank you to the Hoosiers. And I'm with you, man. I mean, my goodness. And it might just be Deshaun McCullough is just kind of that dude. But
let's also not forget, he's a coach's kid. His
That's
father,
right.
Delon McCullough, is a running backs coach for Notre Dame right now, like a football family. So, and his brother played, I think his brother was the older brother was maybe at Indiana, or I can't remember exactly where he was. So it's just a football family. And again, Indiana might have yes, they did a good job with him in year 1. We're thankful for all that, but they also had him playing on the edge. He was an edge player. We're bringing him back to what, again, he feels really good, playing in space. And it looked like he felt really comfortable playing in space when you got him lining up across from Gavin Freeman in the slot. And you're like, that looks odd, but was not at all out of place on that one.
You want to hear a little bit more from Brent Venables, the head football coach?
Hit me with it.
Okay, here's Brent talking, and courtesy of Sooner Sports, by the way, appreciate their hard work always. Talking about, well, not Dasan McCullough individually, but, hey, transfer portal additions. Brent, it was Showtime City for the transfer portal additions.
Again, there's a lot still in front of us, but even prior to today, been incredibly pleased with the work, the buy-in, the humility, the competitiveness, and then the play. It certainly hasn't been perfect with any of them, but there's signs that, we're moving in the right direction, and, that bringing those guys in are making everybody else around them better, and certainly, they're going to be able to help us. That's, again, goes without saying as well.
That's probably, if you ask, okay, take all the positions and combine them together, right? Just one big takeaway. What's your one biggest takeaway from the spring game for Oklahoma? It's that newcomers are going to make an immediate difference, no doubt. Whether you're talking Peyton Bowen, if you're talking Dasan McCullough, if you're talking Reggie Pearson, and we thought this, but we wanted to see some of that get confirmed in the spring game, John. And look, I'm here to tell you, just dating back to the Peyton Bowen conversation, okay, am I ready to triple stamp the double stamp that he's starting for Oklahoma this season? Not necessarily, but man, if he's not playing a bulk of snaps for Oklahoma in 2023, I will be shocked. He's just too good not to. Dasan McCullough, same thing there. He's flying around. I was curious how, moving from edge to cheetah, what it was going to look like. You trusted Brent Venables, right? Because why would you? I know that there's the sour taste from 6 and 7, but Brent Venables knows how to coach defense, okay? He knows where to put the puzzle pieces defensively. It's how he played for and won national championships at both Oklahoma and Clemson. It's how he routinely fielded some of the nation's best defenses, particularly the last decade or so at Clemson. So we should have been confident that Brent Venables and this staff, and just Brent's decision to put Dasan McCullough at cheetah was the right decision. But you still want to, if you're anything like me, I don't want to say that you're glass half empty, but you just want to see things confirmed. You got to see it to believe it, baby. And man, I'm sold. Dasan McCullough, the staff got it right. He can fly around. I love what he's going to bring to the table for Oklahoma at cheetah. There's no doubt they're going to be improved at that position.
And I just think they're going to be improved across the board. You mentioned the transfer portal additions, getting Jacob Lacey, being an impactful player on the interior. Rondo Bothroyd, same thing. Trace Ford getting snaps out there. A lot of these guys, they're going to have an impact. Reggie Pearson, who we mentioned already. It's going to be a very, very impactful class. It's an experienced class of transfer portal additions on the defensive side of the ball. And also, like your 2022 guys, some of those 2022 signings, they're starting to emerge and take it, get snaps with the first team. Like Grayson Halton, he got first team, defensive tackle snaps at times in the spring game, and he was impactful. He had 2 sacks, 5 tackles. The guy was really, really impressive. There's a lot of really impressive things about what's happening with Oklahoma's defense. Again, the proof is going to be in the pudding when they play Cincinnati, when they play Texas in particular. We'll see for sure where this defense is, but all the signs right now point to trending in a really, really positive direction. We'll see if it transpires, but I'm really liking where they're heading across the board. I think the defensive line depth is better. The talent is better. The linebacker depth and talent, although a little bit more inexperienced with, Stutzman, Kanik, and Dasan McCullough. Like if that's your starting kind of linebacker / cheetah, I feel great about it. That's a really fast physical group, and it's going to make you better. And then you're too deep if you can go to Kip Lewis, who is all over the place, and then Kobe McKenzie, who just looks huge out there. Like to me, he looks like that prototypical kind of old school middle linebacker that's just like 6'4", 250 and can run and just going to crush people. Just a lot of talent that's been added to the defensive side of the football over the last 2 cycles, and it's going to start coming to fruition. They might not be a top 50 defense this year, but they'll certainly be much better than what they were in 2022.
So where do you stand on offensive line versus defensive line. Are you positive that the defensive line has taken some pretty serious steps forward here? Are you concerned about offensive line? Do you chalk it up to Rouse and others just not being able to go? How do you sort of reconcile everything? Because look, and we talked about this on yesterday's episode, but for those that are with us live, hey, appreciate you guys being with us for Locked On Sooners Live. 38 attempts rushing, 112 yards. That's 2.9 per carry. So running the football, it's a spring game. I'm not going to panic Anakin here, but it was just okay running the football. So where do you reconcile all of that?
There are still questions about the offensive line. The second team offensive line seemed to struggle a whole lot more than the first team, whether it was penalties, pass protection, run blocking. It was rough. But, a lot of it was they were going up against the first team defensive line for a lot of that at times. The first team offensive line, you're down Walter Rouse. You still haven't really figured out left guard, but otherwise I felt like the protection was really good. They did a good job creating a pocket for Dillon Gabriel. And then when there were, times that he had to bounce and get out of the pocket, that's okay. Like, that's just going to be part of his game. But I felt like for the most part, he had enough time to throw the ball. The running game still needs some work, both sides, but some of that just comes from familiarity too. Like, they've been practicing against each other, all spring long. And the running game is probably one of those things that you can kind of figure out a little bit more, or you can get your keys in on a little bit more. And what that right guard's going to do on this play, or what their strengths and weaknesses are. So I feel I got questions, but I still feel like there's promise, because you do get a Walter Rouse back. You still have a competition going on at left guard. Caden Green's not going to be your starting left tackle. And while he was good at times, that's a big jump, from high school to, jump into college and then starting at left tackle, when he's projected to probably play guard for the Sooners. And so, we'll see. Like I said about all of it, I mean, I feel better about the defense than I do the offensive line, but I still want to see all of it when they travel to Neipert Stadium and play Cincinnati in a hostile environment. I'm not going to learn anything, I don't think. Those first three games against Arkansas State and Tulsa and SMU, unless they were to get upset in one of those games, then I think we'd learn a lot. But otherwise, I don't think we'll learn much. But it's when Big 12 play really takes off and they play, at Cincinnati, and then they have to play in the Red River Showdown. That's when we're going to learn about this team. We'll find out more about where they're headed in 23, but it's still not the whole story. I know we're quick to put people on the hot seat. We're quick to want to move on if, a team doesn't meet our expectations or a coach doesn't meet our expectations, but this is a process. This is a work in progress. They're building towards something. This is just year 2 of a massive, massive, massive overhaul where they've really torn the foundation, the structure down to the studs, and no pun intended. And they're literally having to rebuild the entire program. And it doesn't happen in a day, and it doesn't happen in one season or 2 seasons. So to answer your question, still a little concerned about the offensive line, feeling pretty good about the defensive line.
Yeah, let's just live in the world, the universe where defensive line, oh, come on, man. This defense, are you kidding me? We've turned a corner. This is a top 40
national
defense.
Championships.
Yeah, I mean, please. Are you kidding me? Offensively, we're going to be fine. Dillon Gabriel's back. They'll figure out the skill positions. It's Coach Beedenbow. He'll get this thing cranked up. Offensive line will improve. They'll get guys back. And, oh, by the way, have you seen that defensive improvement? So I do think it's obviously somewhere in the middle for Oklahoma. But to see Oklahoma just more physical defensively at the point of attack was on that end of the equation a very, very good sign. And offensive line, definitely my eyes have opened a little bit. Coming out of the Cheez-It Bowl, John, thought, okay, yeah, pass pro needs some work, but man, this is going to be a physical offensive line. I mean, the way Savion Byrd was moving guys around in that game versus Florida State, they looked physical, violent at the point of attack, and we didn't really see that for the most part in the spring game. So it would be dishonest of me to come on here in this edition of Locked On Sooners Live with all of you in the Everyday Club and not say that, look, I have a little bit of concern there, what we saw with the offensive line, but we'll see how all of that comes together. Just before we shift into wide receivers, John, I know we got a couple more predictions there, and I don't know if there's anything else you want to get to from the spring game, but just because I did cut one final Brent Venables cut up, I thought one of the good stories, and I know it wasn't the same as last year when you had the enthusiasm of year one for Brent Venables and, in part the animosity toward Lincoln Riley leaving, the Oklahoma fans wanting to come together and show that, hey, this program, we're going to be okay, right? And you had that kind of emotional pull last year, and all of a sudden you have this wild record attendance crowd. I would describe 54,000 plus as a good turnout for Oklahoma, sixth nationally. It wasn't the tops in the nation like we saw a year ago, but to me, it was a very solid turnout for OU. What did Coach Venables think?
Yeah, no, it's great. Again, I've said this, many times, and of course it's well known, the support that we get at the University of Oklahoma is second to none. And, again, we don't take a backseat to anybody when it comes to, support, fan engagement, the passion, the love for the Sooners and the former players. That's just not normal. And so I thought everything, the environment, I thought the production, if you will, was great. And fans were fantastic. And for us, it's a great opportunity it's the only opportunity we get before we play an actual game to get in a game day type of environment and see how guys handle the emotion, and whether or not a guy will become paralyzed through those moments. So
It was huge. I mean, it was a huge turnout. 54,000, that's a lot of people to show up to the spring game. And the weather conditions weren't great. It was cold and windy. And, when I was leaving the stadium, it got a little bit drizzly later on that evening. And it was a really, really good turnout. And I think it's just going to be kind of the standard at this point. Like, if you do less than 50,000, it's going to be, really disappointing. I think better weather, it's going to be better turnouts as they continue to build this thing and, figure out, more ways to make it such a spectacle and enhance the pep rally environment that they've got going on. It's going to get even bigger and bigger. So super, super cool.
You agree with this take from Jet that we owe a tip of the cap to our USC athletic director? I don't know if he deserves an on-campus statue. Like, we could tuck him away somewhere off campus maybe because it's the USC connection. But if things start to trend in a positive direction and he did in fact save Sooner football, does our man from USC deserve some sort of recognition?
Yeah, maybe I'll put a little framed picture over here behind my right shoulder in honor of Mike Bond. Man, I don't know. We'll see. It's still the book is out, but here's the thing. Brent Venables did bring back a level of enthusiasm that I think was missing a little bit under Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley, really good offensive mind, really good recruiter of offensive players even. And we're seeing that, he can win a lot of football games. At the same time, it didn't always feel like Oklahoma football. And, my previous co-host, David Walker, he was a walk-on in the early 2000s. And I mean, he didn't mince any words, in 2020 when, they got out of the gate in Big 12 play and they lost to Iowa State and Kansas State in back-to-back weeks. And he was one of the first people I remember asking, is Lincoln Riley, has he kind of lost the magic? Is he no longer the wonderkind? You know what I mean? Like, have things changed? And it certainly trended that direction, right? They weren't able to navigate the 2021 season without a couple losses as well. And it seemed, again, just the enthusiasm for Lincoln Riley was just waning. And the enthusiasm for the program was just kind of stale and stagnant. And Brent Venables has kind of brought that belief back that Oklahoma deserves to be playing for national titles. Oklahoma deserves to be at the top of the conversation, at the forefront of every conversation when it comes to national title contenders. That's Oklahoma's standard. And he's rallied such incredible support for not just the football program, but just Oklahoma athletics over the last couple of years or last year and a half. I don't recall how many $1 million plus donations have been made to Oklahoma's athletics department over the last year and a half, but I feel like it's far more than what were happening during Lincoln Riley's tenure. And the other thing that Brent Venables did when he got there is almost like demand a bigger commitment from the university, from the Board of Regents to football. And we see it in the recruiting expenses from the 2022 calendar year. Like they were double any year. They were double the best year of Lincoln Riley's tenure, at what, 2.6 million spent on recruiting expenses in 2022's calendar year, according to USA Today Sports. So like Brent Venables, man, he's going to continue to do that. He's going to continue to rally people and generate support and energize a fan base and energize an alumni base that seems like more engaged and enthusiastic about the program than I can remember. And that's going to continue to build. And this season, when they go and they win 9 or 10 games, it's going to like take an exponential upward trajectory and enthusiasm for what this program is going to be, because he just inspires belief. He inspires that, and that's why we were able to just buy into all the hype last year and not worry about so much of the turnover, despite, what was it? Just 40 guys on the roster that were a part of the program, because Brent Venables made us believe, he made us believe that this was going to be a great thing. And it's going to be, this is going to be a great thing. Again, it may not happen this year, but like I said on the Monday show, by 2025, this team will be a legitimate national title contender with an offense that can score with the best of them and a defense that can stop anybody.
Okay, so let's toss this onto a sticky note here, John. That's what we like to do in the radio studio. Whether or not we actually revisit said sticky notes, okay, well, that's another story. But the idea is toss it on the window. We'll come back to it, revisit it later. This is a perfect summer conversation from Jed. The Sooners haven't fielded a legitimate playoff contender since they lost to Tebow in the national championship game. And then let's see here. Somebody else, Sooner Cowboys said, they should have won that year with Mayfield. So chalk that up as our summer debate, okay? Was that a legitimate national championship contender with Mayfield, or was there still much work to be done just collectively for Oklahoma? Because there was a ton of offensive talent, NFL talent, on that 17 team, but obviously they weren't up to snuff defensively, and that's kind of how it played out in the second half of the Georgia game, which is what you're trying to build right now, a holistic national championship contender where it's everything you do is championship, offense, defense, special teams, the day-to-day, all of that. Now, as Sooner Cowboys out there said earlier too, coach can have all the energy he wants. I cannot see another 6-7 season. And I got news for you. You are not alone out there, Mr. Sooner Cowboy. There's a lot of people that feel that way. And I'm assuming that's Sooner Dallas Cowboys, just to clear up anybody listening on the podcast that said, wait a second, this is not Locked On Oklahoma State here. So get that nonsense out of here. I'm assuming that is Oklahoma Sooners, Dallas Cowboys, but we'll see. I mean, obviously Oklahoma needs to make some serious progress this season. Any final takeaways that you had from the spring game that we haven't touched on? We haven't really talked quarterbacks tonight. What did you make of what we saw quarterback-wise for Oklahoma?
I think Dylan Gabriel is Dylan Gabriel, and he's good. He's going to be really good at times. He's going to be great at times. There were a couple, I mentioned the one overthrow to Angelo Anthony, or this is LV Bunkley Shelton on the over route, and then we had the interception. But then I was watching the game back, and then he had another overthrow on a 4th down play, down near the goal line, where he's got him in the back of the end zone and just sails it a little bit too high. So if I'm nitpicking, which, that's what we kind of do here on sports analysis talk, is nitpick things, like those are misses, and you can't have those, especially on a 4th and goal from the 3. You got to convert those. You got to convert a touchdown when the guy's wide open. It was an issue last year, Dylan Gabriel overthrowing people. But I still think he's your best option at quarterback right now. And I think he's going to win you a lot of games. Remember, this was an offense that scored a lot of points last year. It wasn't the offense that let them down. It was the defense that, gave up 40 points, gave up 50 points at times that really let you down. So if they're able to improve defensively, this is easily an 8-win team, 9, pushing for 10, realistically. I thought Jackson Arnold had some good moments. I thought he had some moments where he looked like a true freshman. Again, like I said on our show that published Monday morning, at least he threw for more yards than Arch Manning. We got that going for us. And then the running ability was fantastic. Somebody mentioned that Davis Bevel got quicker. He got better too. He just looked so much more, composed. He looked so much more poised in the pocket. He looked like he could throw the football well. And again, I come back to the idea that, okay, he didn't arrive into Norman until after the spring game. He was a late transfer portal arrival. At the same time, like, I still believe that they could have done a better job at getting him prepared for the Red River Showdown and not just going in with their tail tucked between their legs. Excuse me. I'm going to say that their tail tucked between their legs and the passing game, because they had no confidence. They had no confidence in anything that they could do throwing the football. And to me, that's a failure of the coaching staff, because it looks like the talent is there. I mean, he's a Power 5 quarterback. He was at Pitt. He is at Oklahoma. So you should be able to get something out of him much better than what you got in the Red River Showdown. So intrigued by that. I don't think the backup quarterback job is anywhere settled. I think we assume it's Jackson Arnold, but from the performance I saw out of Davis Bevel, I'm like, okay, he might still be kind of in the running for this thing. So it'll be interesting to see it. Again, Dylan Gabriel's the starter. Jackson Arnold, if something were to happen to Dylan Gabriel and he got hurt for an extended period of time, I could very well see them, it'd be the Jackson Arnold show from there on. But say Dylan Gabriel gets hurt for a series, they might feel more confident going with a veteran presence and a Davis, Bevel to get him through for a series than, to potentially waste a red shirt or waste a game on Jackson Arnold and potentially blow his red shirt. I know that the red shirt thing is probably not going to be a factor for Arnold or Michael Hawkins or Kevin Sperry down the road, but just something to just to consider. But I think the quarterback situation, I feel much more confident. And even Jeff Lebby said it after, in the postgame, he's like, I feel much better about our quarterback situation now than I did a year ago.
Out of respect for my friends in the state of Oklahoma and abroad, and my family in the state of Oklahoma and abroad, I will not stand for these positive comments for one Davis Bevel. I'm sorry. I can't do it. It's not personal. I promise. I want nothing but the best for him, but the Texas
he looked good. He looked good.
He had a nice day. I know. I'm just playing around. I'm just messing around. It was good to see. It was good to see. And I agree with you. I think just collectively, Oklahoma's quarterback situation, top to bottom, clearly in a much better situation. And, Nick Evers, who was here and now is gone, you kind of look at what's going on at Wisconsin. Sounds like he's buried on the depth chart up there. So that might have actually just been a recruiting miss at the time for Oklahoma. But, hey, that's neither here nor there. That's in the rearview mirror, and wish him, Nick Evers and their family, nothing but the best, not rooting against anybody for sure. But you've upgraded by bringing Arnold in, and I think you're going to continue to upgrade at the quarterback position by what you've got committed and hopefully eventually signed in these next couple of classes. And speaking of what's coming ahead in the days to come here on Locked On Sooners, why don't we bring some of that audio from you in video if you're watching along on the YouTube side, from Jeff Lebby, from Ted Roof. I mean, we got so much from the spring game that we just still haven't passed along to everybody. And you're right. I mean, Jeff Lebby said as much, that, John, they're in a better spot quarterback-wise.
Yeah, there was a lot of really positive comments. I think everybody is realistic, though, that they've still got a lot of work to do, but they felt encouraged by what they saw out of the spring game. And I think that's where we should be. We should feel encouraged. I was commenting on Dalen Smothers' run on Twitter, on our Locked On Sooners Twitter account, and just thought, man, that was just a fantastic run. And then somebody, of course, because it's Twitter, it never fails. Somebody's like, yeah, we just need to learn how to finish tackles better. I'm like, come on, man, just enjoy the good run. Just enjoy that Dalen Smothers was fabulous, that he bounced off tackles and he used his agility and his speed and he was making a play. Like, just enjoy that. Like, we don't got to be Debbie Downer about every single thing that happens. Just enjoy a nice play. Like, let's just enjoy that, please. It's a spring game. It's an exhibition. You take the positives, you acknowledge the negatives, but you don't put too much weight on any of it. You just enjoy it. It's sports. Just enjoy yourselves, folks. No, just a lot. There's a lot of positive. Again, I think the talent has improved over the last 2 years. And to me, that's the thing that stands out, because, and it's not just like guys making plays. It's just the way they look, the way they run, the way they hit. again, we go back to Deshaun McCullough, like the way he met Gavin Sawchuk in the hole on a 3rd and 2 was just absolutely physical, and like it knocked Gavin Sawchuk's helmet off. But it was mean, it was nasty, and that's coming from what looks and appears to be one of the nicest dudes you'll ever meet. When I got a chance to talk to him, and he was just so kind and just really, really nice guy. But man, he plays fierce. So yeah, like let's be encouraged by the spring game, because I feel really encouraged. And again, I'm a glass half full type of guy. I live life hopeful and optimistic, and that gets me into trouble a lot of times on predictions because that's just the way things go. At the same time, I think there's a objective talent improvement that's occurred at Oklahoma. Now, how that translates to wins, we're going to get to find out here in about 4 months' time, 5 months' time, when Oklahoma first gets to take the field, because that's really when it's going to matter. That's when we're going to know. And so I'm going to hedge a little bit. I'll temper my expectations until we see this team against Big 12 competition. But again, I feel really good about where they're at.
And let's just table the Oklahoma's trending for a couple of wide receivers, and we'll jump into that in full on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Sooners for the Everyday Club. I'm with you. Let's live in the world of positivity. But even though that's kind of why this marriage between John and I works so well, is because he's a very positive person, and I don't know that I'm a very negative person.
Not a very negative person.
In sports, I'm maybe a little bit more cynical, and I need to see it to believe it kind of guy. I'm trying. It's my New Year's resolution. We've made such progress here in 2023. I'm so much more positive today than we were even 2 weeks ago, John. We've really, really come a long way, but I do get caught up in okay, I need to see it to believe it. And I would just say, some final thoughts on the quarterback play. Let's see here. There's some comments on Dillon Gabriel, the staff being afraid to play the right quarterback. I don't know that I feel that way about the staff right now. I come away from the spring game and I see a couple of plays where the end of the spring game was awesome for Jackson Arnold, right? I mean, the run itself, maybe they wiped the touchdown off the board. Maybe they didn't. We'll never know, because guess what? He's got the blue jersey on. And, oh, by the way, they're not going to tackle to the ground in the spring game. But we see the athleticism, the explosion there. He's got a different gear. Arnold does running the football than Dillon Gabriel. That's obvious, though Gabriel's a solid runner. He's not Jackson Arnold running the football, right? The throw to Gavin Freeman was delicious late in the contest. The throw to Gibson, that should have won the thing, was a really nice throw. And yet, guess what? A couple of footballs get batted down at the line of scrimmage. So there's some operational stuff for Jackson Arnold. And part of that probably is because of the offensive line at times. You probably could say this about both quarterbacks, John, that you can't totally evaluate just the quarterback play without saying, okay, well, let's see what it looks like when you truly have the ones out there for both. But that being said, I saw some operational stuff, to me, very uneducated point of view, to where I say, I do think, honestly, Dillon Gabriel's still, to me, ahead of Jackson Arnold. Now, there's time between now and the start of the football season, so I'm not going to totally rule it out. But to me, based on what I saw in the spring game, John, yes, I do think that Dillon Gabriel is your starting quarterback, and I think that that's how it's going to play out.
Yeah, the coaching staff has ultimate trust in him. They believe in Jackson Arnold's ability. But again, the dude's just a true freshman. I think we're because of recruiting, and again, we love recruiting. It provides fantastic content and storylines and drama and all that. But you're not going to see every single true freshman become a starter first year. The Caleb Williams situation with Spencer Rattler and all that was very unique. You know what I mean? Like, Spencer Rattler wasn't playing terrible. He had a bad game against Texas, and Caleb Williams came in and played, really good for a few games. And then he himself struggled at times too. So this idea that, Jackson Arnold is ready to go right now to be a day one starter. I mean, maybe he could be, maybe he couldn't be, but we've seen time and again over the years. And again, we got spoiled a little bit by the Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts era of Oklahoma football, that it's not always a foregone conclusion that a true freshman, even with all the talent and all the skills that a Jackson Arnold has, can step in right away and be the game changer you think he's going to be. Like I think that's an unfair expectation and unfair kind of weight to put on a kid like that. Like he just got to college 3 months ago, and now we're kind of putting all of our eggs in that basket. Like, let's give that time. If Dillon Gabriel falters, I welcome it, Sooner fan. You won't be the first one to do so. And so I'll welcome it. If he falters and he just plays terrible, then I can see it. But I don't think he will. I really don't think so. Because aside from the West Virginia game, there wasn't really a game where Dillon Gabriel played terrible. There were moments where, he missed a throw here and there, but otherwise the offense was really, really good. And, get better on third down, get better in the red zone. And this thing is a whole lot better than what it was a year ago.
I will say somebody texted into the radio station today, and I think they're right, John, with this takeaway. It feels like we're, and I don't even almost want to put this out into the atmosphere, but I'm going to say it because I do think it's true. There's a faction of the fan base, and Sooner fan, I'm not tossing you into this mix necessarily. I'm just saying it's indicative of kind of where this is headed a little bit, because if there's failures at the quarterback position and you've got the 5-star quarterback in Jackson Arnold, this thing could turn similarly nasty as it did several years ago with Spencer Rattler. I hope that doesn't happen with the fan base, even if things go poorly for Dillon Gabriel. And I get it. And I've been the first one leading the band and the parade down Lindsay Street and Jenkins and everywhere that, look, it's Oklahoma football, and it comes with the territory that this is not, hey, congratulations for volunteering for Oklahoma football, and here's your orange slice, and did you have a nice time? This is Oklahoma football, right? So with the territory comes great responsibility, but I hope we don't get to that point to where Dillon Gabriel's getting booed out of the stadium, because lo and behold, whether or not it's good or bad with Dillon Gabriel this season, ultimately, here's somebody that committed to come in to stabilize Oklahoma's quarterback position. And I hope that does not get lost on the fan base, good or bad, in 2023. But I'm just saying there's some tea leaves out there that we're kind of heading in that direction.
And yeah, man, I would be bummed if we went that way again. But anyway, that's that. We're not going to put that out in the atmosphere. We're going to think,
even though I just did, John, and I apologize.
I reject it. I reject the scenario where Dillon Gabriel gets booed off the field. This coaching staff is loyal to Dillon Gabriel, and I don't see them benching him unless it's just he's just starts off like 0 for 12 with 3 picks, and he's getting sacked because he doesn't know where to go with the football. You know what I mean? Like if he's just having one of those kind of games where you got to pull your starting goalie because he's just a sieve on that day. But he's not going to be. He's going to be good. He's a good quarterback. Is he one of the best quarterbacks in the country? No, but you don't have one of the best quarterbacks in the country. You've got Dillon Gabriel. You've got a good quarterback, probably a top 15 quarterback in the country. You're not going to have the best quarterback in the country every single year on your roster. You hope to, but the reality is you're going to have some years where it's Trevor Knight and Blake Bell. No disrespect to those guys. You're going to have some years where it's Nate Hibble. You know what I mean? Like you just have to live with the idea that you've got good quarterback play, not phenomenal Heisman Trophy winning quarterback play. And you got to understand that wins and losses don't just come down to the quarterback. The quarterback takes all the heat for him, but wins and losses are a football team thing. Football is the biggest team sport ever. It takes 22 guys on 2 sides of the ball, a defense and offense, takes an offensive line, wide receivers, running backs, coaches, all of it working in harmony to win games. It doesn't all just come back on the quarterback. Jet, you can disagree with me. That's fine. He might just be a game manager. You know what game managers have done in the past? Won Super Bowls, okay? Trent Dilfer, game manager. Brad Johnson, game manager. Won a Super Bowl. I mean, people would argue Stetson Bennett was a game manager and took Georgia to 2 national titles. You can win with game managers. You don't need a guy to go out there and throw for 400 yards every single time out on the field. You got to have a guy that protects the football, comes through in clutch situations. Was Dillon Gabriel good in clutch situations last year? No, he wasn't. but also I don't think the team was good in clutch situations last year. I don't think the offensive play calling was good in clutch situations last year. The defense wasn't good in clutch situations last year. So you just got to, and I know we were supposed to be wrapping this up, but this just kind of got me on my high horse all of a sudden with the NFL draft approaching. Like, wins and losses are not all completely on the quarterback. We don't have to have a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. I mean, during the Lincoln Riley era, you had to have a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. But guess what? We're heading in a different direction where you're not going to have a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback to win. That's the direction they're heading. Dillon Gabriel, like, this team is not going to win a national title this year. But that's okay. We're building something. Again, Dillon Gabriel is part of that building process. Do you want to throw Jackson Arnold out there and him not be ready? I mean, you could want to do that. But again, I'm venting. We need to save some of this for later in the week. Maybe we can have this Dillon Gabriel, Jackson Arnold discussion with Josh. I'll give you your kind of the Stetson Benton. He could have won the Heisman this year, Sooner Cowboy, but he wasn't the Heisman Trophy winner or the Heisman contender the first year that they won the national title. He kind of just like helped them get there because that's what quarterbacks do. It takes a whole team.
Well,
rant over.
The beautiful thing here is look at this interaction we've created in this great discussion and potentially a debate to be had. It's a wonderful thing on Locked On Sooners Live. And I would say negative to a positive potentially for Oklahoma is this. And I said as much last season, and I'll just reiterate it again here. I'm hopeful that the mystique was taken away in this regard for Oklahoma, that the mirage was lifted for Oklahoma to where if you want to consistently go out and compete and win national championships, occasionally to get like Alabama and yes, Georgia, you got to be able to do it with a quarterback like a Dillon Gabriel, right? Because the sum of the parts are better defensively, ability to turn. And, we're talking offensive line from the spring game. It's got to get light years better to be able to turn and just hand the football off and go win a game. Right now, Oklahoma, based on what we saw in the spring game, is not capable, to me, of going and beating an elite football team where they lean on the run game. Doesn't look like they're good enough to do that right now. That's where Oklahoma needs to get to. And hopefully, if you guys are right and Dillon Gabriel's not that great quarterback at the University of Oklahoma, hopefully he shifts Oklahoma in that direction to where it's the realization sinks in, okay, we got to get a lot better across the board. And that is a final thought for you tonight on Locked On Sooners Live.
And we're going to be covering Oklahoma football all off season. We're going to be talking about this all spring, summer long. We'll be here 5 days a week with you here on Locked On Sooners. So subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms. You can even listen to us ad-free over on Amazon Prime if you're a Prime member. So go check that out. But subscribe to the show on YouTube as well. We're just like 132 subscribers from hitting 4,000. Our goal is to get there before we hit the summertime. So help us hit that by hitting that subscribe button, hit that like and notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Again, we're here every Monday night, 9 p.m. Central Time for the live show. We'll keep dishing out recruiting later this week as well as the wide receivers continue to trend toward Oklahoma. Might even get a commitment this week. But again, the dominoes are rolling. We'll continue to cover that and more on Locked On Sooners. We'll have more takeaways from the spring game, more audio, video from the spring game as well. So make sure to be around for that. But until next time, again, thanks to everybody that hung out with us in the chat. Always a good time watching you all debate and ask your questions as well. So appreciate all the really positive feedback from you guys. It's a lot of fun to do this every week. So until then, he's Josh Helmer. I'm John Williams. We'll catch you then. Boomer Sooner.